Return to Silent Hill is the most recent movie to feature in the film series, and loosely based on the 2001 video game Silent Hill 2, this is definitely a movie to be forgotten about. It literally felt like a Hallmark horror movie that didn't even deserve to be in the cinemas. I've seen straight to DVD horror movies from the 2000s that were far better than this. With an ending that basically finished where it started, and it put the question to us on if what we witnessed was all inside of James's mind or if it was actually happening in his reality. Let's answer what the ending truly means and discuss what went wrong with this film. So let's get into it. Here is a review of Return to Silent Hill and the ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending explained. When it came to the ending of the movie, after basically watching James Sunderland navigating through Silent Hill, avoiding all of the nightmarish creatures that were there, and following young Laura whilst looking for his wife Mary, who we eventually found out had passed away, with Brookhaven Hospital being the destination that he was headed to, here and the Lakeview Hotel was where the climax ended up occurring. We were drifting in and out of reality where we saw Silent Hill in the past, where it was essentially a thriving town. This was when he was with Mary before she got sick and before he left. However, when he was in it following her death, looking for his girlfriend and being riddled with grief and guilt, it was a place of nightmares. This is what tied into the theory around all of what we saw in this setting most likely happening inside of his mind. It was through the scenes with his therapist where we found out that Mary had actually died, and James simply couldn't let go of the memory of her. He believed that she was still out there, hence why he was looking for her. James had a sense of guilt within his mind over the fact that he walked out on her because she was a part of a cult which essentially worshipped her father, and she wasn't prepared to distance herself from them. But then, with her getting sick and him returning to see her in her dying days, a point where it was too late to spend time with her, he ended up killing her because it was what she wanted. This was probably why he was so traumatized with what happened and what caused his mind to spiral and be riddled with darkness. Despite being told over and over again that he needed to move on from the trauma of losing Mary by his therapist in the actual Brookhaven Hospital, what we saw in his mind was him basically never being able to move on from it, and with him choosing to drive into the water with her body, that was symbolic of the fact that he was never gonna leave her again, as that's what he did in the past when he walked out on her. So driving into the water with her and holding onto her hand was him succumbing to the darkness and a lifetime of being mentally ill. So this meant when the movie came to a close and we saw him meeting her for the first time all over again when she was waiting for the bus as she was trying to leave Silent Hill, the very thing that would have given her the freedom that she was seeking. He knew full well what was happening and he decided to relive his life with her all over again. It's quite a bleak ending because it showed that he was essentially never going to move on from her and he'd be stuck in his memories choosing to live his life believing that he was with her, when in reality he'd probably be lying in a hospital bed somewhere being perceived to be insane and asked if he was making progress by his therapist. The concept of the story is actually pretty cool, the idea of being trapped in grief and choosing to live in a life full of things that have already happened rather than trying to move on and better your life because you regret how things played out in the past. However, the execution was just extremely poor, so let's discuss why the movie was terrible. My review of the movie. Now, I'd be lying if I said I didn't go into this movie half expecting it to be bad because of the early reviews that I saw of it, but even after pushing them to the back of my mind, it didn't take much for me to make up my own mind that it was pretty darn bad. I gave it 1 star on Letterboxd, 1, and even that felt generous. There were so many issues with this movie that it's actually quite difficult to find a place to start, but I'll start with the boring nature of the execution. As I said earlier, the concept of it was actually pretty cool. A man regretting walking out on the love of his life, killing her because she wanted to die, and then surrendering his reality because he'd rather live in his mind with his memories of her. But what this movie did was it just made the narrative confusing, tedious, repetitive, and when the reveal happened that she was dead and that he did it, it didn't actually provide a shocking reveal at all because it always kind of felt like that was on the horizon. I feel like we simply spent most of the time just running through Silent Hill, him having headaches and not actually developing the plot forward. I felt like a lot of what we actually saw didn't actually matter that much, and when looking back it all just felt like filler. The flashbacks fleshed out their relationship, but I didn't actually feel like they were needed as much as what we had them because, again, there just wasn't much to them, other than the fact that we watched a happy relationship turn into a turbulent one. I just found it all a bit odd that James never truly brought up his issues with Mary. We also never really learned much about the cult, and considering they were a driving force as to why James left her, it would have been nice to have known what they properly stood for, and also why her father was seen as this godly figure. The lack of important dialogue and range other than James constantly going around and saying, "I need to find her," just made the destinations that he was going through feel boring, like there was no real jeopardy and almost like a waste of time. I'd almost describe it as basically watching the cutscenes in a video game but getting none of the action or satisfaction of the part where you play. I feel like it just skipped the part where we actually get enjoyment and the information so we could learn what was going on. Not at any point did I feel like James was a threat, and I think that's an issue, especially when the environment is surrounded by deadly creatures and monsters. One other major issue for me was the CGI in this movie. It was some of the worst that I've seen in recent times, and considering it's 2026, come on, there's no excuse. The moment that we first saw Silent Hill in the distance after the opening scene, I knew it was going to be trashy CGI, because even that didn't look good. From the mannequins to the many different creatures, they just looked so cartoonish that it took me out of the movie completely. When Pyramid Head was fighting the spider-like creature, that looked absolutely terrible. It's not even just that though, the entire environment outside for the most part was clearly a blue or green screen, and it just lost a lot of the immersion that it could have actually had with a set. I also thought that the point of view perspective shots that would occur were really jarring and didn't look good at all. I get that it pays homage to the video game, but it just wasn't needed because it didn't actually add anything of value. The only thing this movie really has going for it was the fact that there were a couple of decent jump scares. Granted, they were cheap ones, which you knew were on the horizon, but I still respect it for making me jump a couple of times. The movie had a ton of creatures within it, and they had a level of importance, but we didn't learn anything about them at all. We didn't learn why they were like the way that they were. Was it the summer storm that went wrong? We didn't learn what their strengths and weaknesses were, and if this was taking place inside of James's mind, why were they there? Even the ending of the movie didn't provide that much of a resolution, and it left it open-ended, which I didn't think worked that well. I think they wanted to be clever with it and make the audience sit there and wonder what just happened, which we did, but not for the right reasons. It was more confusing than thinking it was intelligent or smart. The final thing that I didn't like about it was the performances by Jeremy Irvine and Hannah Emily Anderson. I didn't buy the chemistry that they had. The dialogue was delivered in quite a poor fashion where it literally felt like it was being read off of the script, and it just had all of the makings of a Hallmark performance. Ultimately, this movie fell short because it didn't have any real redeeming qualities about it, and it didn't succeed in any categories whatsoever. The only good thing about it was the story, and that's not even original because it's based off of the game, so I can't even give it kudos for that. It's a shame because even though there weren't high hopes for this feature, I did expect it to be a little bit better and for it to not just feel like we were watching a tensionless hour and 50 minutes of a man just walking around a town that has all the makings of him not surviving, but navigating just fine. This movie isn't really worth your time. It might be worth sticking it on once it's on digital just to give it a try, but I don't think it's worth wasting an afternoon in the cinema because I think you'll be just as disappointed as what I am. So, there you have it, a review of Return to Silent Hill and the ending explained. If you want to see more of your favourite TV series and movies being broken down, then check the playlist below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. What did you think of this movie? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.